We have reached the sad but inevitable point where hostilities have started in the Gulf. I'm sure we all hope and pray that now it has begun, the President of Iraq will at last see reason and quickly make the decision that will bring it to an end. The choice of peace or war has been with him ever since Iraq's unprovoked act of aggression against Kuwait. Iraq has had almost 6 months to comply with the United Nations Security Council demand for its withdrawal from Kuwait. More than 6 weeks ago, the Security Council set the deadline of January the 15th for the Iraqi withdrawal. The Security Council authorized the use of all necessary means against Iraq in the event that its deadline was ignored. The international community has tried all the peaceful avenues to persuade Iraq to withdraw. President Saddam Hussein made the decision to ignore the deadline, and that decision has made today's action unavoidable and inevitable. Responsible members of the international community cannot allow a country to engage in unprovoked aggression against a sovereign state and flout the will of the United Nations, expressed as it was in such unprecedented, virtually unanimous, and absolutely unambiguous terms. As the military operations commenced this afternoon, New Zealand's ambassador to the United States was informed of the situation at the request of President Bush. I've had briefings from my officials dealing with foreign affairs, defence, security and intelligence. I am assured that all agencies concerned with anti-terrorist activity are exercising a high degree of diligence and all necessary precautions are being taken. I do not intend to detail those arrangements in any way. My first thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of all New Zealanders today, are for the people who are now exposed to the full force of war. The government is naturally very concerned about the welfare of New Zealand military and diplomatic personnel, indeed all New Zealanders in the area. We are in constant communication with the military and diplomatic personnel who are monitoring their welfare closely. If circumstances require, we will be working with the Australian government and others to organise the aerial evacuation of New Zealand civilians. In the meantime, they are being advised to take what precautions as they can against attack. I have received a report on the situation of the Army Medical Unit, which is in transit to the war zone. I have spoken to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. He will now cut short his mission to the Pacific Islands and return home with the Minister of Defence and the Associate Minister of Pacific Island Affairs. The Leader of the Opposition has received a briefing on the situation of the Gulf from officials this afternoon, and I personally spoke to him on the matter as well. I have set in train the arrangements to call Parliament together next Tuesday for a special session at which members can receive a report from the government and discuss the situation. Finally, let me say that no one wants war in the Gulf. The cause of this war is an act of aggression by the troops of Iraq against the state and people of Kuwait, coupled with the stubborn refusal of Saddam Hussein to end his illegal occupation of that small member of the United Nations. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Mr. Bolger, how closely are you keeping in touch?
One question at a time, please.
How closely are you keeping in touch with what's happening in the Gulf, Mr. Bolger? Where are you getting your information from?
I'm keeping very closely in touch. I'm advised, of course, by the agencies in New Zealand that have responsibility. They clearly are Defence, Foreign Affairs, Intelligence, and my own department.
Are you happy that you will be on top of any major developments concerning New Zealanders there?
Yes.
Are there any plans to send any more units or any of our troops there at all, Mr. Bolger?
I answered that question yesterday. Nothing has changed since yesterday.
Is that something that could be debated in Parliament next Tuesday?
I can't foreshadow what members will want to debate in Parliament, but I surmise some members will want to discuss the extent and level of New Zealand's participation.
Would you put such a vote to the whole of Parliament and not just the Cabinet, Mr Bolger?
It is not under our system Parliament's decision. The decision to commit the transport unit and the medical unit has been made as is proper under our constitutional procedures by the Executive, and that was made before Christmas.
And as far as any more troops or any more units or any troops are concerned, would you not put that vote to the whole of Parliament?
The decision will be made as in the past, which is the correct procedure.
Have any units been put on a state of readiness to go to the Gulf War?
No.
Were you surprised at how quickly the Americans did take action?
No. I believe personally that given the long lead time and the warning that had been given, that a response shortly after the deadline was inevitable.
Have you had any sort of advice as to why there doesn't seem to have been any reaction from the Iraqis?
No, and I haven't seen any comment on that whatsoever. That's impossible to answer at the moment.
Mr Bolger, when will Mr McKinnon and Mr Cooper arrive home?
Early tomorrow morning.
They'll be flying back on the 727, I think?
Correct.
Okay.
Did you yourself get any prior warning whatever of this attack?
From sources, we had an indication that they could take place around the time that it did, but they were not totally authentic sources, or we couldn't guarantee them at the stage we received the information. But we were warned.
When you say that you've had advice or you've been in contact with our medical team, when do you expect them to arrive in the Gulf area?
We have not released the exact date, but I certainly do know the exact date.
Have you spoken to Dylan Newman in the last 24 hours?
No.
When was the ambassador to the UN informed? Was it after the forces had attacked in Iraq or before?
How about the precise time that the attack was taking place?
The Australians were given about an hour's notice in advance.
So I heard Prime Minister Hawke say.
Have you talked to the Australians, Mr Bolger, or talked to Mr Hawke?
No, I haven't, but that option is open to me, and I may well do that.
What will be the length and the form of next Tuesday's parliamentary session?
It will be a short session. It is a difficult session to arrange, I might add. We have to prorogue the existing Parliament and reopen Parliament because the Parliament was adjourned till the 19th of February, so it is quite a complex procedure to reopen Parliament. It has to go through a formal reopening. Clearly it will not be the grandeur of the normal state opening of Parliament. It will be a much more subdued event. It will be directly related to the issue of the Gulf, and then Parliament will adjourn again till the normal date it was set to open.
Will you have a Cabinet meeting earlier than your 22nd scheduled meeting?
We'll certainly have a Cabinet meeting before Parliament operates.
Would you have preferred the medical team to have been in the Gulf before war began?
Oh, that's a hypothetical question of no consequence. They're en route and they'll be there in due time. It's flying. Otherwise they wouldn't be en route. The committee of officials that is advising me have met more than once today, I can assure you. The Cabinet Committee, no, it has not met. There's only an informal Cabinet Committee. I have, however, spoken to a number of Cabinet colleagues.
Jim Bolger live from Wellington, commenting on the news that a war has broken out in the Middle East. Just a reminder, 3 National News will be bringing you an hour-long special bulletin at 6 o'clock.